All right, we got some play calling drama going into the season. What else could you ask for?
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. We're dapping it up with the Darrell Dapprich, Montgomery radio legend, hanging out with us. Auburn basketball versus Houston, that whole situation is wild and electric. We'll touch on that towards the end of the show. Overall camp chatter, as well as a national analyst calling Auburn spatula U. That's coming up. But we heard from the assistant coaches earlier in the week, Darrell, and Derek Nix's comments maybe generated the most conversation when it comes to play calling. And this has been kind of this ongoing thing with Hugh Freeze and Derek Nix, because who's calling plays? And they say that Ken Austin is involved as well. And some of the chatter that came out of it, and Justin Hokanson put a tweet together kind of reiterating what Nix said earlier this week. Nix handles first down strategy and play calling. Ken Austin, the QB coach, handles third down strategy and play calling. And then, of course, Derek Nix says that Freeze, the head coach, has the authority to overrule anything we say or do. And so people are seeing all of these folks like too many cooks in the kitchen, and people are reacting to this in what appears to be negative. And I have no issue with it at all, Darrell.
I'm actually one of the people that said the phrase on X, too many cooks in the kitchen. I was asked my opinion. So let me clarify to do a little deep dive on this. Number one, please. It happens a lot. It's very common that two or three play callers have input, set stuff up, call the plays, whatever, with the head coach having the ultimate say. Just because it happens a lot, I'm not a football coach. My opinion could be totally wrong. So this is just my opinion. I'm not saying I'm right.
Okay, sure.
And I've never coached a down of college football. I just go back to when it wouldn't be Auburn without some sort of play calling controversy question. Was it Gus Malzahn? Was it Chad? It was always at Gus. Are you calling the plays this year?
Yeah, so or is Brett Lashley calling?
Exactly. Or when Chip Lindsey called them, we were rolling, right? Auburn was rolling. So the genesis of this, and give some Auburn people a break on this, because the PTSD goes all the way back to that. People need to look decades. Look big picture, okay? Now, I'm going to go back to 2 years ago when you and I did multiple shows, and I think we were able to really decipher the games that we felt like Hugh Freeze was calling the plays, as opposed to the games Philip Montgomery was calling the plays. And do you remember how decidedly different it looked and how much more success? And we'd go, oh, that was Hugh Freeze calling the plays. And in the press conference, he would. So I get what he's trying to do. He wants input. He doesn't want to, just make it look like it's a dictatorship.
Yeah.
But I just feel like, from a play clock standpoint, from getting the play in, sometimes too much input leads to delays and too much confusion. And again, I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying I like it to be this person's calling plays. And if you're an offensive guru, like Hugh Freeze is supposed to be,
right,
let him call the plays. And again, we've been burned before on this topic, is why people are a little bit skittish about it.
Can I just be honest with you?
Mm-hmm.
Hugh Freeze is calling the plays. Let's don't overthink this. Hugh Freeze is calling the plays. And I've seen a lot of discussion about, like, oh my goodness, the quarterback's hearing all these voices. No, there's one channel. There's one channel. They hear Hugh Freeze. Up to 15 seconds left in the play clock, then that communication goes dead, and then Auburn runs the play. That's what's happening. I think so much of this is when Hugh Freeze poached Derek Nix from Ole Miss, it couldn't be a lateral move, or else a buyout would have been involved with Derek Nix's contract. And so he has to have some sort of play calling duties. And so they dress it up like this. They put a nice little bow on and say, hey, Derek Nix, you're responsible for first down strategy, and you'll call plays some of the time. And I believe that that's true. But I think a lot of the strategy stuff probably goes into game planning, and that's communicated to Hugh Freeze with tendencies. But we can dress this up however we want. Hugh Freeze is calling the plays for this offense. That's my takeaway from all of this.
Yeah, that you took the words right out of my mouth on my next point. I was going to say, since we're going backwards and looking in the past for historical trends, I was going to say it had to be presented the way it was presented last year because of the contract language for Derek Nix. And Hugh Freeze did a really good job when he was asked that question in a press conference last year, going, Nix will have some, Ken Austin will have some. And that's how you answer that question so it doesn't look like a lateral move. So, yes, I think there's a lot to unwrap here. There's previous, trauma from how it was handled in the past. And let me just say, Auburn has been the most successful when there was one clear-cut play caller who was just rolling, whether it was Rhett Lashley in 2013, whether it was Gus Malzahn in 2010 when he was the assistant coach, Chip Lindsey, again, give him credit, in 2017. Sure. He did a really good job. So when there is one dude, it seems to be Auburn. And then when Hugh Freeze in 2023 looked like he was the play caller. How that gets broken up, how the verbiage, the language, which way they describe it, is probably, you're right, onto something. It's just window dressing.
Yeah, I think it's giving guys a title and giving them, public responsibility. And my understanding is this is fairly normal to have collaboration happening over the headset. And then once again, it gets filtered to one guy. In this case, it's going to be Hugh Freeze, and that's going to call it into Jackson Arnold. That to me is what I think all of this is. I also wonder, because we have seen Hugh Freeze in the past, like whenever he's the play caller, like he lets you know if it's going well, for sure. And if it's somebody else calling plays and it doesn't go well, like we saw this with Philip Montgomery. And I think there was I think it's pretty clear what Philip Montgomery and Hugh Freeze, or at least what Hugh Freeze thought of Philip Montgomery, right? I don't think he went to his rescue once publicly in a post-game presser, but I do think there's some of that too, where I think if the offense doesn't look good and we don't think it's quarterback related, I do think attention will go to Derek Nix. Whether that's right or wrong, I do think that'll happen this year. If the offense doesn't look good, I think the offense has a chance to look fine. I'm not predicting that, but I do think that is situational where if Auburn does underachieve, there might be pressure put on Freeze to get a different offensive coordinator.
I don't mind the collaboration as long as there's decisive collaboration, meaning because, again, you've got to get the play called in. How many times did we see people looking to the sidelines, waiting for it to get called in, frustrating? Why is that? We don't know. Is there collaboration going on?
We saw that less last year. 2 years ago, we saw it a ton.
Correct.
I feel like we saw it less last year.
We did. So that's the first thing. Make sure it's just decisive. And then the second thing, is there an indicator of who's calling the final play? When we used to look for that little clue, if Hugh Freeze was putting the play sheet over his mouth, covering his mouth, right? I don't know. It's fun to speculate. But I say this, there needs to be a certain amount of grace given to maybe some of the people that are overreacting this from an Auburn side because of some of the things that have happened in the past and how it's been a sore subject. And it's really been difficult to watch plays not getting called in, flip-flopping, not knowing who's calling plays week to week, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and then just a follow-up quote for Nix when asked how often does Freeze overrule, said, quote, "It depends on how the game is going, but he's highly involved. To me, he's an outstanding play caller, and I've learned everything from him." So take that for what it's worth. I think he's highly involved. I think he is the play caller. That is where I'm going to stand on all of that. Do other guys have roles? Absolutely. This is Hugh Freeze's offense. Hugh Freeze knows that this is his offense and a make or break season for the Auburn Tigers. And I don't think he's going to let anybody else run the offense. Spatula U coming up. Okay. That's next right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks or properties, investments. You don't have the full picture, and you can't be leaving money on the table. Darrell. I mean, normally before you would need so many different apps to kind of see, all right, where's my money here? Where's my money there? With Monarch Money, Darrell, it's all right at your fingertips in one easy to use app, platform, service, dashboard, whatever you want to call it. Monarch Money is the answer.
Apps, I go all the way back to statements and envelopes and bills and all.
Sure.
I mean, so think about how far that's come. And I love the fact that there is distributions on there, like of what you spend on what. You can look and see exactly where your money is going.
No question. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all of your accounts in minutes and see clear data, visuals, and get smart categorization of your spending, all of it. So use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONCollege. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Darrell, you sent me a note from Steve Wiltfong. This was maybe last week, talking about the positive momentum that Auburn has had in regards to recruiting. And so many of these recruits are kind of in wait and see mode. And Wiltfong tweeted, Auburn has injected the roster with 2 top 10 recruiting classes and what should be several impact transfers. Compete for a playoff spot, and they'll be Spatula U at the end of this 2026 cycle.
Flipping them. That's such a cool name. And remember, that came out a day before or 2 days before Jace Matthews committed to Auburn. And, so that just adds to that. And then, the Womack conversation that's been going on and the positive spin there. But it does speak volumes about how a lot of during the summer and the spring, there's been this whole concept and theory of if Auburn just wins on the field, it's going to take care of a lot. It's going to take care of the recruiting classes. A lot of people will flip. Well, here's a national analyst saying that, kind of saying out loud what we've all been thinking, and doesn't have skin in the game with Auburn, and he's looking at it from a national standpoint. I agree. You get into that playoff contention in November, watch out. And I like the fact that, though, he tied it all with already 2 top 10 recruiting classes and then what Auburn did in the portal. I think it gives some credit and some credence to what Auburn's already has done instead of focus on what's lacking, which a lot of people are looking at.
Right. And it just goes to show, like, Auburn is in position if they can just prove a little bit of proof of concept, which I think that's twofold. One, the recruits, which I think is less of it. If I had to be 100% honest, I think a lot of this has to do with alignment and money. If I'm being 100% honest with you, because I think a lot of these kids want to go to Auburn. I think some of it also has to do with there is only so much money. When we talk about there's unlimited monopoly money, but it does run dry. Like when you're paying these kids so much. So I think it's twofold: proof of concept. Guys want to go to a winner, but I do think a lot of it is alignment and money continuing to roll in.
It is. Do you see? If you don't win, does the support dry up? Does some of the big booster money to give and donors and that kind of thing, does it dry up? Are they in a wait and see?
Or the negative recruitment from other schools, Darrell, of are you even going to be playing for Hugh Freeze? Are you even going to be playing for Hugh Freeze? If you go 6-6 again, you may not be playing for Hugh Freeze. So they may be waiting to see, is Hugh Freeze or whoever my position coach is that's recruiting me so hard, will they actually be my coach if I go to Auburn? I'm sure that's being mentioned at other places in attack of Auburn.
Yeah, and if you get to November and you are in the conversation for the college football playoff, or let's say you get to November, you have 8 wins, that conversation goes completely away. Away. So it's always more than one thing. It's maybe donors waiting to see, do I want to write another check until I see who they bring in, or I don't want to support a program that goes 5 and 7. There's all those factors. And then, like you said, the negative recruiting, which, again, it's big boy football. I mean, no one can complain about it. Everybody does it. When there's a coach that is on the ropes or on the hot seat, it gets brought up early and often in all the recruiting things. The way you put that to bed and the way you shut that down and shut it up is just win.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. All right. Want to drop a little bit of camp chatter in, and then, of course, some of the, I don't know, the press release for Auburn versus Houston. It kind of got me fired up. That's next, right here on Locked On Auburn. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Haven't mentioned it on the show, but Malcolm Simmons reportedly has been cleared. He's been practicing. It sounds like Auburn handled this with as much caution as possible in regards to, openness of communication between all parties involved, and reports surfacing yesterday that he's been cleared. It doesn't really seem like he's going to miss any time.
Yeah, that puts just some finality to that. And it, obviously when you go through the Title IX process and get cleared, as well as now the legal side, I don't see where there's anything else. And there's no more hoops to jump through. Let's put it that way.
Right. And so there's going to be narratives that continue to circle this young man, which, it seems like he's handled everything that he needs to, at least from Auburn's point of view and from, Title IX. So I don't think there's really anything else to touch on there, and we probably won't ever bring it up again. So let's talk about Auburn basketball versus Houston. So that will be November 16th. In the press release, I just love that it says, in a rematch of 2025 Final Four teams, the Auburn Tigers will take on the Houston Cougars. You don't get to see that a whole lot. This is one of the premier matchups in the non-conference slate in all of college basketball. And it's happening 2 hours north in Birmingham. That is so fun. The day after Auburn's open date. That will be a home game for the Auburn Tigers.
I like the way this all falls into place. First of all, it will be the most extremely hyped basketball game of the weekend in college basketball, which is nice. There'll be so much publicity, so much positive spin and PR. You're coming to Birmingham. Auburn doesn't play football on Saturday, so Auburn fans do not have to make a choice per se about what they want to do with their sports entertainment dollar on that weekend. It's perfect. It's lining up perfectly. And, Houston's going to be pretty good again. Calvin Sampson and he's got good recruiting classes, and he always hits the portal hard. So the fact is, you mentioned that it's two previous Final Four teams from last year makes it really cool. And it's going to be a big deal. It'll be a big deal across the nation, which I love as well. Yeah. And I think Auburn will have plenty of opportunities this non-conference to kind of have a chance to say we've reestablished ourselves at the top of the conference and the top of college basketball. I don't know if I'm ready to predict that they will do that, but they'll have the opportunity to do that several times before SEC play starts. It's a brand new roster. Tahad is the only guy coming back, and we'll see exactly what that looks like on the floor. I think the talent is certainly there, but we all know it takes more than just talent to build a team. Now, Bruce Pearl is as good as anybody as getting talented pieces and forming a team, not just a roster, but a team and a lineup. But this will be a great opportunity because, like you said, Houston's going to be very good. It's why you play these types of games before your conference season starts. Because especially if you're Auburn and you're trying to find chemistry and continuity, and you talk about spatula, you flip more this roster. You talk about a roster flip. So now you've got to get used to each other. And this is the kind of game that expedites that. It speeds it up. Yeah. And you play these kind of games. You play them when you have a really, really good team and you want to be NCAA tournament ready. And that's what Auburn did last year. And you also play them when you feel like you've got a talented team, but you need them to come together and you need to kind of get them to mesh. And this is a great test to do that.
That's right. All right. I think that about does it for today's show. Darrell Dapprich, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
Follow me on X, DAP6410, Wednesdays and Fridays here with you on Locked on Auburn, and Sunday nights on the Barn.
Please like the video. Please subscribe, and we will see you next time. This has been Locked on Auburn.